Imagine walking outside in cold rain with no jacket, not freezing snow, not a dramatic movie blizzard, just cold rain, wind, wet skin, and a long walk ahead. Now remove the warm house behind you. Remove the car heater. Remove dry socks. Remove your phone, the pharmacy, the ambulance, and the hot soup you were secretly hoping for. That is closer to the problem ancient humans faced. Before cities, farms, written language, or permanent shelters, humans had bodies almost exactly like ours. Same skin, same need to stay warm. Same problem when wet wind hit bare shoulders at dusk. The common answer is, because the world was cold. That is true, but it is too small. The deeper answer is stranger. Clothing was not fashion first. It was not modesty first. It was not someone inventing pants because the tribe had a meeting. Clothing began as survival technology, a second skin, a portable shelter, a way to make a fragile, hairless body survive places biology alone could not handle. And because the first clothes almost never survive, the evidence has to come from clues around them. Stone scrapers, bone needles, cold climates, and even body lice, a gross but useful witness. To understand why clothing mattered, we have to start with the human body itself, because humans are both brilliantly adapted and dangerously exposed. Compared with chimpanzees, gorillas, or most other mammals, we are almost naked. That sounds like a design flaw until you remember where much of early human evolution happened. In hot open landscapes, bare skin and heavy sweating were powerful advantages. A sweating human can keep moving under heat in a way many animals cannot. For walking long distances, tracking animals, carrying food, searching for water, or moving under harsh sun, this was serious survival equipment. No fur coat required. Actually, a fur coat would have been a terrible idea in that heat, like hiking through summer wrapped in a carpet. Bare skin helped humans dump heat. Sweat cooled the body. Long legs helped with distance. In the right environment, this body plan worked beautifully. But every advantage sends you a bill later. The same bare skin that helped humans release heat became dangerous when rain, wind, cold nights, and winter stole heat back. Hairlessness made cooling easier. It also meant losing warmth faster. A sleeping body on cold ground could become dangerously chilled. A wet body in the wind could lose heat fast. A child, an injured adult, or an older member of the group could be pushed toward the edge simply by weather. And cold was not just uncomfortable. Cold was math. When the body loses heat, it burns energy to fight back. Muscles shiver, blood vessels tighten, metabolism rises. All of that costs fuel. And in the ancient world, calories did not come from a fridge. They had to be found, chased, dug up, cracked open, butchered, shared, and defended. It was running away on 4 legs. Clothing helped the body spend less energy just staying alive. It was about spending less energy just to stay alive. Today, we forget how quickly this can become dangerous. A modern person caught outdoors without proper clothing does not need Arctic temperatures to be in. Trouble, cold, rain, wind, and fatigue can pull heat from the body even when the air does not seem extreme. But we have heated rooms, emergency blankets, dry socks, jackets, hospitals, cars, phones, soup, the whole modern survival cheat code. Ancient humans had none of that. If they were wet, they stayed wet until fire, sun, or shelter changed things. If night came cold, there was no thermostat to turn. So the first clothing probably did not look like clothing as we imagine it. No fitted sleeves, no woven shirts, no neat seams, no stylish winter collection. Here, clothing does not mean buttons, trousers, zippers, or anything store-ready. It could mean an animal hide pulled over the shoulders, a strip of fur wrapped around a sleeping child, bark fiber tied around the body, leaves, grasses, or plant material used as temporary cover, a rough foot wrap protecting skin from stone, a piece of hide held against a wound, burn, or patch of freezing flesh. Anything placed between skin and the world. The first jacket probably did not look cool. It probably smelled like smoke, fat, and animal. But if it kept the wind off your back, nobody was leaving a bad review. At first, these coverings may have been used only when needed. During cold nights, storms, long journeys, illness, injury, or travel into unfamiliar terrain. In that sense, clothing started less like fashion and more like a tool. A hand axe helped cut. A fire helped warm and protect. A hide over the body helped preserve heat, block wind, and keep rain off the skin. Before clothing said, "This is my style," it said, "I would like to not die tonight." To understand why clothing became necessary, follow humans out of warm places where bare skin worked, and into climates where the body alone was no longer enough. For much of our deep past, the human body was shaped by heat as much as hunger. Our ancestors evolved in Africa, under a sun that could punish any animal unable to cool itself. Bare skin, sweating, long legs, and endurance walking were not weaknesses there. They were advantages. In an open landscape, where shade could be scarce and a hunt might last for hours, the problem was often not how to stay warm. The problem was how to avoid overheating. But humans eventually entered climates with different rules. As groups moved beyond warm regions, nights grew sharper, and seasons became more extreme. Nights became sharper. Seasons became more extreme. Winds cut across open plains. In parts of Eurasia, winter was not a brief discomfort. It was a force that shaped every movement, every meal, every decision. Snow could cover edible plants. Rivers could freeze. Animals could migrate away. A body adapted for releasing heat now had to survive in landscapes that stole heat relentlessly. This is where clothing becomes more than decoration. It becomes portable shelter. A cave protects you only while you are inside it. A fire warms you only while you stay near it. A windbreak helps only at camp, but a hide on your shoulders follows you across a valley. Fur around your feet follows you over stone. A stitched layer follows a hunter into cold grass before sunrise. That was the breakthrough. Humans did not just find shelter. They learned to wear it. A hide wrapped around the shoulders could protect a hunter waiting motionless for prey. It could protect a child carried against a parent's chest. It could protect gatherers walking far from camp. It could protect a group traveling at dusk when the temperature dropped and turning back was no longer an option. In Ice Age Eurasia, ancient humans were not entering an empty stage. Neanderthals had already lived in cold-adapted environments for hundreds of thousands of years. They had powerful bodies, large noses, skilled hunting traditions, fire, and shelters. Modern humans arriving in these regions faced the same brutal arithmetic: cold, distance, risk, and uncertain food. Clothing alone did not solve that problem. It worked as part of a survival system, and clothing extended protection beyond the firelight. That mattered. But a covering could. It let people move, work, wait, carry, gather, hunt, and sleep where naked skin was not enough. And clothing was not useful only where snow fell. Even in warmer places, coverings protected skin from sun, insects, thorns, stone, blood, mud, and small injuries. It did not need to be perfect to matter. It only needed to make the body slightly safer, slightly warmer, slightly more efficient, again and again. That may be the real story of the first clothing. Not a sudden invention. Not one genius by the fire saying, "I have invented fashion." More likely, it was a growing habit born from pressure. Over generations, the body gained a second skin made by hands, not grown by evolution. But knowing that ancient humans needed clothing is only part of the mystery. The harder question is, how do we know they made it when the clothing itself almost never survives? The first problem with ancient clothing is simple. Most of it rotted away. Stone tools can survive for hundreds of thousands of years. Bones can fossilize. Charcoal can leave dark stains in the soil. But hides, fur, sinew, bark fiber, and early textiles usually disappear. They were not built for archaeology. They were built for bodies, sweat, rain, smoke, and movement. So when archaeologists look for the first clothing, they are often looking for a ghost. So the evidence comes from the things around clothing. One major clue is the scraper. Stone tools shaped and worn in ways that suggest hide working. Picture the job. An animal has been hunted or scavenged. The meat is cut away. The hide comes off heavy with fat, blood, membrane, and tissue. Leave it alone, and it becomes stiff, rotten, and useless. So someone kneels over it with a stone edge and begins scraping. Again and again, removing fat and flesh, stretching the hide, and softening it, working it by hand until it becomes flexible enough to wrap around a living body. But this kind of labor leaves marks, not always on the hide, because the hide is gone, but on the tools. Microscopic wear, polish, residue, and repeated shapes point to hide processing. They were processing skins with skill and intention. What began as a carcass byproduct became insulation, shelter, foot protection, a windbreak that moved with you. Then come awls and needles. An awl is basically a pointed tool for making holes. Simple tool. Huge consequence. Once you can pierce hide, you can lace it. You can fasten it, you can pull two edges together, and once you have a fine needle, especially one with an eye, you can sew. That changes everything. A loose pelt is useful, but it slips, gaps, and needs constant adjusting. It is basically a blanket trying to become a jacket. Tailored clothing is different. Sleeves can follow the arms. Leggings can protect the thighs and calves. Foot coverings can wrap the feet. Layers can overlap so wind does not find the openings. Ancient tailoring was not about looking sharp. It was about stopping wind from finding the gaps. A child could be bundled more securely. A hunter could move without constantly holding a hide in place. A group could travel farther because protection was no longer just carried. It was worn. Some of the earliest known eyed needles are tens of thousands of years old. Their appearance suggests a world where clothing had become more complex than a single draped skin. Not fashion in the modern sense. Engineering. Soft engineering. Body engineering, made by people who learned where cold entered and where seams should sit, and how movement could tear a poorly made garment apart. And then there is the weirdest witness, lice. Humans have head lice, which live in hair, but body lice are different. They live in clothing and move to the skin to feed, which is horrible, but useful. Body lice need clothing. Without garments close to the body, they do not really have a home. By studying the split between head lice and body lice, scientists get a clue for when regular clothing may have begun. The dates are debated, but the basic logic is strong. No clothing, no body lice, lifestyle. A tiny parasite may preserve a clue to our second skin. So the story is built from fragments. A scraper polished by hide. A bone point shaped for piercing. A needle small enough to pull thread. A parasite that could not exist in the same way without clothing. None of these things gives us a complete ancient jacket laid out neatly in the ground. But together, these clues reveal a pattern. Ancient humans were not simply enduring the world as they found it. They were modifying the boundary between body and environment. And once clothing became more than a loose hide, it changed not only how humans survived the weather, it changed how they moved, worked, cared for each other, and saw themselves. From that point on, clothing was no longer just a response to discomfort. It became a way of changing what a human body could do. A person wrapped in worked hide could leave camp before sunrise when the air was sharp enough to numb fingers. Hunters could wait longer in cold grass or cross windy ridges with shelter on their backs. A mother could hold an infant closer and warmer while walking. A child could sleep through a bitter night and wake with enough strength to keep moving. An elder, whose body could no longer produce heat as easily, might survive another season because someone knew how to turn skin into protection. This is easy to underestimate from a modern room. Right now, warmth may come from walls, windows, blankets, heating systems, socks, and a button on the wall. For ancient people, every degree mattered. More activity, more distance, fewer injuries, fewer nights lost to shivering. Clothing widened the human map. It made cold dawns usable. It made rough ground less punishing. It made migration less impossible. This was not casual invention. It was knowledge stored in fingers, in gestures, in repeated practice. One generation watched another. Clothing was technology, but it was also memory. And once clothing existed, it began to carry meaning beyond survival. The kind of hide someone wore may have told a story. Shells, teeth, beads, feathers, or red ochre added to clothing may have marked belonging, age, experience, family, status, or ritual identity. Long before written words, flags, uniforms, or official symbols, the human body could become a surface of communication. We still understand this. Today, we dress for weather, work, comfort, dignity, and identity. A coat says it is cold. A uniform says what someone does. Ancient clothing may have begun with cold, injury, insects, sun, and survival. But it did not remain only practical for long. The same covering that protected skin could also say, I belong here. I know how to live here. I am one of us. So, why did ancient humans start wearing clothes? Does not have one simple answer. They did it because naked skin was not enough for the worlds they were entering. They did it because children needed warmth, feet needed protection, bodies needed shelter, groups needed to move farther than biology alone allowed. They did it because a hide could become armor against weather, a blanket for sleep, a pouch for carrying, a shield against insects and thorns, a sign of skill, and, eventually, a marker of belonging. Picture that small band again, crossing a cold landscape under a pale sky. They still carry stone tools. They still guard fire. They still read tracks in mud and listen for danger in the dark. But now they carry something else as well. A second skin made by their own hands. Not fashion in the modern sense. Not decoration first. But one of humanity's earliest survival technologies. Portable shelter. Social signal. Turning point.